In today's video, we're touching on my top 10 board games of all time. This is a list I've done before. I like to update it. Last year, I feel like I didn't play enough over the last couple of years to really update the list. This past year, I've really tried to focus and play some new games, try out some new stuff. So we've got 4 or 5 new entries on the list. If you disagree with any, this is my list, but let me know down below what you would have on it instead. Let me know your top 10s. I love seeing people's top 10s and just dissecting why they like these games, and you can sort of see a pattern. You will very much see a pattern in not only the mechanics I like, but also the themes and setting. So if from that you've got any suggestions, maybe you see I like a certain mechanic, you suggest this, which I might not have played. It's the thing I love about board games. Nobody has played everything. So you hear their top games, you can maybe give them a suggestion. I'll do the same. If you drop your top 10 down below, I'll give you some suggestions on stuff to try. And vice versa, at the end of this one, drop in the comments what you think I might like. Let's jump into this one though with number 10, Root. Now this is a game that was slightly higher a few years ago, dropped slightly. It's still on the list. I still enjoy it. And it's because it's very unique in not only its theme and setting and the aesthetic, which I think is one of my favorite in all of board games, even the meeples themselves. Like I normally prefer miniatures or absolutely hate standees, but these meeples are so effective. They're not even like printed stickers or anything. It's just a slight face, a slight design. It's such a beautiful game. Even the board, the cards, everything, the theme just fits perfectly. Feels like a world you would very much want to live in. And that's before you even talk about the game itself and its mechanics. Every time you play it is different. Every army is different. Every cycle of night and day and all of these different actions you take is different. So you could play, I think I've got 6, I think I might even have 8. You get a ton of different armies, so every time you play it, if you play through them once each, you're gonna have 8 different experiences. You can get expansions, which I've got. And even then, when you go back to the same ones, it is gonna be very different. How people play their armies affects you massively. For example, you're gonna need help from other people if you're playing as the Vagabond, and it's just those interesting interactions, a very unique war style game. It's just got a ton of stuff I love, so it had to squeak onto this list somewhere. That's a terrible pun. Woodland creatures, squeak? No. In at number 9, I've gone for Dead of Winter. Now this one is a theme I very much love. I'm a massive horror buff. Like my favorite types of movies are horrors. I'm a massive zombie fan just in general. More recently, stuff like The Walking Dead has been a massive favorite of mine. I grew up reading the comics and just seeing the TV show. It's definitely been hit or miss, but when it's working, it's working really well. And you get to live that in this game. Not only are you worrying about the zombies, but you're worrying about your friends around the table. At the start, everyone's dealt a card, so you have, as well as the primary objective, which everybody shares, you have your own. And a lot of times they can be stuff to mess with other players. But what is really beautiful is it's shuffled in with a good amount of cards that aren't traitors. So there's a chance that everyone at the table is on the same side. But because you know there's a chance someone has that traitor card, you second guess everything they're doing. You're trying to do your own thing and pull away when you really need to work together as a team to accomplish the goal. I feel like this is the perfect example of a zombie apocalypse. Having to do one thing to help someone while stabbing someone else in the back to achieve something else. It's what The Walking Dead always touches on, how the zombies aren't the real threat, it's the people. And in this one, it very much feels that way. Very tense, you get the crossroads, which add a different aspect to the game. It adds a little bit of story, a little bit of choice. They're some of my favorite parts of this game, honestly. And there's no messing around. Like, you could leave the colony and be killed instantly. And that could very much happen in a zombie apocalypse. Obviously you think you're invincible, but we've had it a few times where people leave and they die instantly on their first turn. It's a scary world out there, and Dead of Winter definitely hits on that. Coming in at number 8, I've gone for Valeria Card Kingdom. This is one I originally played, I think it was at a game store and then with a friend, and then I bought it myself and we just play it a ton now. It's probably got to the table the most out of any game on this list. It's quite quick compared to some of the others. I do like the big chunky games that take a few hours or a night to play. This one's kind of simple. You're going to draft characters, roll dice, and activate those characters. So when you roll them, you have a certain activation. When other people around the table roll the dice, you have different ones. It's sort of trying to chain these combos, there's a little bit of luck to it. Obviously, it is dice rolling. You're all going to have your own objectives, so you score in different fashions. It makes for a very interesting game, and again, it's set in the perfect setting for me. If I'm playing a game, it's probably going to be a horror game, or it's going to be a fantasy medieval setting. And this one, we get the fantasy side of things. You can also go into a campaign with an expansion, which I have bought, but I'm yet to get to the table. But I'm very excited to try that. It's just a fun game. It's very simple, but there are clever combos and techniques and ways to win this one. Again, the art is very different. Art is something very important to me. Like, it definitely draws me into a game and I enjoy it in this one. There's monsters, there's heroes, there's a few different ways to do things. There's locations or domains, they're called. It's just a fun game. It's very light. It's very fluffy. It's definitely one that deserves a place on this list. Coming in at number 7, I've gone for Blood Rage. Now, this is a game based in the Viking world, so I absolutely adored the show Vikings. I love the history and mythology around Vikings. I think it's fascinating. So this was absolutely a game I had to play. When I got it to the table, saw all these giant monsters, all the miniatures, all the death, all these cards and sneaky combos you can play, it was perfect. It summarized the Viking world perfectly for me. Not only can you win via taking out your opponent, taking control of the board, taking control of the seas, slamming down big monsters, and just winning via domination, you can also cover yourself in glory as you head to Valhalla. There's different ways to play it, different techniques every time you play, depending what card you pull. The different ages add a very interesting aspect. If you've not tried this one and you're a Viking fan, I do think this is definitely one you should try. There's a few other games, stuff like Innis, which I did want to, I've not actually tried yet, but it was either this or that when I bought this. Glad I picked this one up, but it's definitely one I want to try. So if you've tried Innis, let me know how it plays in the comments below, as it is one I definitely want to get around to. The one that was sort of combating Blood Rage, because I don't want too many Viking games on here, was Raiders of the North Sea. It's a very different game, worker placement, very tactical. You do need to think a few turns ahead, so it was very difficult. It would be one or the other. I do enjoy both games, but I am going for Blood Rage at number 7. In at number 6 is a new one for us, and it is RuneScape Kingdoms. Now, when I saw this, I was a massive fan of RuneScape growing up, so there's definitely some bias. I do think the game itself plays very well, and is probably, if I was going to describe a game or mechanic to somebody or how a game works, this would be it for me. I like the story and moving around a map and making decisions, choose your own adventure, training your skills, and enjoying all of that side of it. And then at the end, you move into the boss battle. It really is the best of both worlds. One of my favorite games of all time, and maybe my favorite, would be Dungeons and Dragons. And this type of game scenario is very much that. It's very much how you would play Dungeons and Dragons without the role playing. So it does take away some of the interest, but you do get that back. Developing a story with friends, it's just for those people that don't want to play the role playing stuff, which a lot of people don't. The board game is the perfect entry point, and then maybe you can move into some stuff like Dungeons and Dragons. RuneScape Kingdoms does actually have its own role-playing game, so that might be something I try at some point. But the board game itself is gorgeous. The miniatures are great. The board is great. Every time you play it, it's different. The events add something interesting. The quests are very funny, very similar to like the RuneScape game itself. There's some really hilarious event cards. I won't spoil any of it, but yeah, it's just a good time. There's a lot of laughs, a lot of story, a lot of grinding those skills and things that you expect to find in the video game, transported over to the board and tabletop very well. Coming in at number 5, I've gone for Final Girl. Now again, horror movie. It's pretty much just a horror movie in a very small box, and the box itself is gorgeous. They're normally designed as like VHS tapes, so you can take it out, put it on the table, you can travel with it. It's very small and compact. There are a ton of expansions. I'm actually looking at getting my next expansion. I've been playing to death the one I've already got. I've got the Camp Happy Trails one. It's just so much fun. I can't believe you're literally just playing with meeples around a very small board. There's some cards and other interactions, but you get so engrossed. I think it's because it's solo play. You get so engrossed that you feel like you're in the story and the movie, and it's just, I honestly don't know how it works. I play games with a lot more going on which try to draw you in and get you involved and just really immerse you, but somehow this game does it in such a small package as well. It's unbelievable. It's so fun. Every time you finish it, maybe you succeed or you die, but you want to try it again, see what happens if you go this way or try that. It's just endless replayability. Like, I've sat down and played it like 3 times in a night before. It just keeps you coming back, and the fact there are so many expansions, I've not even touched the other expansions yet. There's miniatures, there's so much around this game that could definitely end up consuming you. So I've tried to be careful, tried to buy it slowly, but like I said, I am looking at my next expansion. It does things very similar to movies, so I've got one like The Strangers. You can get stuff that's like Friday the 13th, Alien, The Thing, which is probably where I'm going to go to get my next one. Either that or Alien, two of my favorite horror movies. And yeah, this game just wraps it up perfectly, like I say, in a neat little package. Speaking of The Thing, in at number 4, we've got The Thing board game. Now, there are a few variations of this. Whenever I buy a board game, I spend weeks. I spend 2 weeks normally before I buy anything, looking up all the rules, watching gameplay videos, and making sure it's the right decision before I buy it. So before I get a game to the table, I know the rules inside out, I know how it works, I know if I'm going to enjoy it. So that's why I picked this game over the other Thing version. This just had a lot of things that work for me. It's kind of I kind of wish I didn't do that. I wish I could just go into a store and pick something up, but very rarely do I do that. I don't enjoy wasting money, so I do try and get games that I enjoy. And it does help when we first get it to the table. We don't have to spend ages looking at rules. I can just explain it and we can play it straight away. So there's some bonuses, some negatives to that, but it did lead to The Thing and one of my favorite games of all time. So this one, very similar to something like Dead of Winter, but slightly spookier, slightly tenser. One of you is going to play as The Thing, or depending on the amount of players, maybe a couple of you, and you're going to try and spread the infection. This one does things perfectly, so you need friends to help you to do things so you can do it more effectively. You also need to travel to certain areas. You can't really stop people following you. But every time you're together, there's a chance you get infected. So you really need people close to you. You need the help of others. You can't do everything yourself. You need to fuel things. You need to make sure you got medicine, food, and make sure the helicopter and other things are prepared to leave. If you want to arm yourself or do this or do that, you need people to do it with you. You also don't want people near you. You don't want to get infected by The Thing. Eventually they reveal themselves, and well, they don't really have to. They can just escape on the helicopter. So if somebody infected escapes, it is classed as a loss. So there's so much. I can't describe this one. I think you need to play it to really experience it. You really don't trust anyone and can't trust anyone, but to survive, you very much have to. It's a beautiful combination of the both, and it's why it's on this list at number 4. Coming in at number 3, Mansions of Madness. You may notice everything's sort of slid down one, so we have got something new in the top spot, but we'll get to that. You might have seen a video, depending when this goes out, already on the channel and can guess what it is, but we'll get there. Mansions of Madness is very much for me a Betrayal upgrade. So growing up, Betrayal was the game I played. I've played it so many times. It's just countless opportunities slamming down tiles. Mansions is just an upgraded version of that. You get all the tiles and exploration that you do in Betrayal, but you also get the story via the app. You get interactions and puzzles. It is just the perfect experience in that sort of horror movie, explore a town, explore a mansion, explore this. Just, you're exploring a story, it's evolving as you go. You have to do these puzzles in time or you're gonna fail. There's very small parts that everyone has to take a part in, and it's just very interesting how it develops. You can play the same story countless times because maybe you didn't explore this area and you want to check it out and see how it develops the story. This is one that's going to be sat on your table. You're going to be playing this all night, but because of the app, because of the story it tells, and like I say, exploring areas, discovering things, it's all revealed to you as you go, and it's just absolutely fascinating. It's like just playing for a story, playing for a movie. And yeah, we've done it countless times, and this is another one that I think I'm going to need an expansion for, because we've pretty much played through it at this point. And yeah, it is just one of the most perfect games, and why it's on this list at number 3. Coming in at number 2, my number 1 board game for a very long time. I don't like knocking it down. In at number 2 though, we've gone for Nemesis. Now, if you're a fan of Alien, you're gonna love this. You're basically a group of survivors going around a ship, trying to get the ship back to Earth. However, everyone has an objective, a hidden objective. Some people might want to steer the ship off somewhere else. Some people might want to make sure a certain character dies. Maybe they've been paid to do it or told to do it by the corporation. Some people might want to mess with the aliens and get an egg back to Earth for some reason. There are some dastardly objectives, and they're all going against each other. So as you're going around the ship, again, very much needing the help of your friends. People could be turning the screws and working on something entirely different. Like, to guide where the ship is going, you look at it and put it on top, but only you get to see it. So now that somebody's changed it, you have to go check, is it definitely going to Earth? Are you all on track to win this game, or has somebody sabotaged it? They can mess with the engines, which need fixing. Again, you don't really know if they've done it properly, you have to go check. But you can't keep darting around the ship, you also need to do your objective. Did I mention the ship is full of aliens? So not only are you dealing with the people around the table, trying to fix the ship, make sure it's going in the right direction, exploring these rooms, fixing stuff up as you go, things can be on fire or broken. You're also battling a host of deadly aliens. Now these things will kill you very quickly. They will infect you, so there's a chance, there's like this little scanner, so if you do escape, you might still be infected, so it doesn't mean you've won at that point. There's just so much that can go wrong, and it's absolutely beautiful the way it tells the story. Every time we play it, there's a story developed from it. It's one of those things where we still talk about different things that have happened in the game, and that's what board gaming is for me, creating those stories, creating those moments at the table that you all remember. And my new number one, my favorite board game of all time is Oathsworn Into the Deepwood. It's a campaign game that we've constantly got to the table, even though it takes, I would say, most of a night playing through the story and the boss battle. We just want to keep playing, we want to keep exploring this world, we want to develop our characters, fight the bosses, find out the story, let it evolve, and then see that brilliant, great miniature slam down at the end of each session. It's just so much fun, there's so much to love about it. The story's interesting, it does enough to keep you interested, making these events and interesting decisions happen, but there aren't too many outcomes. You know it's always going to end in a boss battle. But when that boss slams down, when you see that miniature, this game is absolutely gorgeous for components. I would suggest getting the miniature version if you can. Get them painted up. It's just an added experience for the hobby and for the tabletop for everyone to enjoy. And it really does add that extra level. It's the icing on top. It's not, you don't need it, but it is, oh God, it makes it good. I think the combat and the mechanics are the best in any board game I've ever played. If you don't know the way it works, as you play cards, it moves your cooldowns around. So you want to tactically play this and then set up grabbing this card back the following turn. It's a very much flow, streamlined gameplay. So you do need to think about what you're playing, what turn, and what you're going to have available the following turn. It really is the perfect combat. It's the perfect story. It's the perfect, literally everything. I can't really pick any faults. Even the way the game is designed in the box and how you put stuff away. The storage is perfect. The miniatures are perfect. The way you reveal the bosses in sort of marked boxes so you don't know what's coming for the next episode. Everything is just perfect in this game, and it had to be number one. No question on this one. My favorite setting, fantasy medieval, was that dark, really gritty feel to it. The characters are incredible, the mechanics, the miniatures, I get to do some painting, which, as you can see behind, I absolutely love doing. So it is a unanimous Oathsworn in at number one for me, and I feel the best board game of all time. Let me know any suggestions you've got down below for me. Let me know your top 10. This has been such a fun video to make, just going through all these board games, and there's some I just want to get back to the table. There's some that I just can't stop playing. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more tabletop stuff, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and I will catch you in the next one.